What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. My name is Lucas Wenzel, and today we are talking about 10 players that you should be looking to stash ahead of the Week 1 slate and before waivers next week as well. But before we dive into that list, you can take the guesswork out of waiver wire decisions with Fantasy Pros Waiver Assistant. It will give you instant analysis on potential moves from over 100 fantasy experts. You'll also discover both the weekly and rest of season impact for every waiver app. All you have to do is visit fantasypros.com/myplaybook or download the Fantasy Football My Playbook app to optimize your roster today. Again, visit fantasypros.com/myplaybook or download the Fantasy Football My Playbook app. The first player on our list is Miami Dolphins running back Jaylen Wright. De'Von Achane and Raheem Mostert will certainly play ahead of him, and others will point out that Wright played behind Jeff Wilson Jr. in their final preseason game against the Bucs. However, Wright vastly outshined Wilson in that game, averaging 5 yards per tote and added 4 catches for 41 yards. Let's also consider that while this running back room is crowded, it's also one of the most fragile units in the league. Raheem Mostert has mostly stayed healthy the last 2 years, but doesn't have the best track record, and De'Von Achane was banged up multiple times last year. Jaylen Wright's skill set fits perfectly into this Miami offense, and should he be called upon, there's a chance he capitalizes in a big way. Next on our list is Indianapolis Colts wide receiver Adonai Mitchell. Josh Downs entered into training camp as the team's wide receiver 2, but suffered a high ankle sprain in early August. Typically, there's a 4 to 6 week recovery timeline, and as of this recording, his Week 1 status is up in the air. This opens up a massive door for AD Mitchell should Downs sit out into the regular season. Recently, Mitchell has been taking snaps from the slot at practice, which could free him up for easier looks on the inside. Add in the fact he's potentially the better red zone threat than Michael Pittman Jr. as well, and draws a Houston Texans team that will put up points in Week 1, Mitchell could get off to a faster start than some expect as a rookie, and it's best to stash him now. The third player to stash is Kimani Vidal, running back for the Los Angeles Chargers. It's been a roller coaster of a preseason for the rookie out of Troy. All throughout the offseason, there was hype around him potentially fighting for meaningful snaps in this hodgepodge Chargers running back room. Then come early August, it was reported that Vidal was buried on the team's depth chart. But then a few weeks later, he was given 11 totes and gained 49 yards in preseason action, solidifying his spot on the team ahead of Isaiah Spiller. What we know for sure is that Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman want to run the football, and the duo of Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, coming off an Achilles injury, isn't exactly stiff competition. Vidal doesn't need to be a workhorse to have fantasy value in this offense. He just needs to continue earning his opportunities in 2024. Our fourth player to stash is New England Patriots wide receiver Ja'Lynn Polk. Look, somebody has to catch the ball in this Patriots wide receiver room, and it honestly might as well be Ja'Lynn Polk. In his final year at Washington, playing aside Rome Odunze, Polk racked up over 1,100 yards on 69 catches while adding 9 touchdowns. His path to volume is pretty clear when you look at his competition. It's 6th-round pick Demario Douglas entering his second year, a serviceable vet in J.K. Osborne, and then co-rookie Javon Baker, who was taken 2 rounds after Polk in the NFL draft. With his well-rounded skill set, there is little reason why Polk can't quickly ascend to the top of the food chain in this Patriots wide receiver room, especially as they project to be playing from behind in more games than not this year. Another rookie you should look to stash is Marshon Lloyd, running back for the Green Bay Packers. I want to start by fully recognizing it was speculated that Lloyd could have wound up on IR for the Packers to start the season. That was until A.J. Dillon was reported to miss the entire season with a neck injury, leaving the rookie and second-year back Emmanuel Wilson behind Josh Jacobs. Despite dealing with both hip and hamstring injuries throughout the preseason, Lloyd appears to be the favorite to relieve Josh Jacobs of shouldering the entire load in this running back room. Matt LaFleur has always had a tendency to deploy a 2-back system since taking over in Green Bay, leaving the door cracked for Lloyd to see some meaningful snaps. Now, is that likely considering he'll be entering the season banged up? Well, not off rip. However, after spending 3rd-round draft capital on Lloyd, there's a chance he weasels his way into fantasy relevance if Josh Jacobs struggles or misses any time early in the season. The next player you should look to stash is Baltimore Ravens tight end Isaiah Likeley. The coach speak on Likeley this offseason has been quietly very positive. John Harbaugh has sung his praises multiple times, noting, "He'll be a big part of what we do. We have high expectations for him, and he's put together a fantastic training camp." For a team that has a dire need for weapons in the passing game, Likeley could certainly find himself more utilized as a receiver this year, even alongside Mark Andrews. And speaking of Mark Andrews, as of this recording, he still hasn't returned to practice after being involved in a car accident. John Harbaugh said he's dealing with something very minor that's not worth worrying about, but this is all playing into Likeley's favor, especially if Mark Andrews isn't 100% to start the regular season. Yet another rookie to add to your stash list is Buffalo Bills running back Ray Davis. The Bills have been looking for a goal line thumper the past 2 to 3 years. They couldn't make it work with any of Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, Matt Breida, Damian Harris, or Latavius Murray. So Josh Allen played Superman last year and did it for them, totaling 15 rushing touchdowns. That is highly unlikely to be sustained in 2024. And James Cook, well, he's only scored 4 rushing touchdowns across his 2-year career. In Davis's final year at Kentucky, he hit pay dirt 14 times. The Bills are going to use Ray Davis as a hopeful solution for the running back goal line woes, which could lead to sneaky fantasy value for Ray Davis early on in 2024. Los Angeles Rams wide receiver Demarcus Robinson is another player you should be looking to stash immediately prior to week 1. Sure, he's behind 2 studs in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp on the depth chart, but there is plenty of optimism here for Demarcus Robinson. First and foremost, the Rams were in 11 personnel 93% of the time in 2023, which was the highest rate in the league. From week 13 on last year, Robinson was drawing nearly 7 targets per game, saw the 14th highest average depth of target. It was the wide receiver 12 in PPR formats during that stretch. When this Rams offense is on and cooking, they are a top 5 unit in the league with Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay running the show. Even with Puka Nacua back and practicing fully ahead of week 1, they have a date with the Detroit Lions that's projected to be a 51.5 point shootout. Robinson may be the easiest and most obtainable stash ahead of week 1. Next up is Tyrone Tracy Jr., rookie running back for the New York Giants. Similar to Kamani Vidal, the competition here isn't exactly daunting for Tracy. Devin Singletary has been fine throughout the course of his career, but he's never had more than 900 rushing yards in a single season and wasn't given more than 190 carries until his 1-year stint in Houston. There should be a decent amount of opportunity for the wide receiver converted running back to see touches in this backfield. Eric Gray may currently sit ahead of him as the running back 2, but his rookie season left a lot to be desired, averaging only 2.8 yards per carry. Tracy possesses a well-rounded skill set at the running back position where, if anything were to happen to Devin Singletary, Tracy could play a fantasy-relevant role in a Giants offense that will need running back production. Last but not least is Baltimore Ravens running back Justice Hill. Out of all running backs on this list, Hill might seem the least intriguing, but I'm curious to see what his snap share will end up being. John Harbaugh earlier this month said that Justice Hill would play, quote-unquote, a lot, and that he, quote, has become a starting running back in the NFL. Now, let's not be unreasonable. Derrick Henry is the clear-cut starter for this team, but what if Justice Hill plays a Tyjae Spears role like we saw in Tennessee last year? Spears was a common waiver wire ad all of last season, and if anything were to happen to the 30-year-old running back with over 2,100 career touches, Justice Hill appears to be the first in line to scoop up his opportunity. Alrighty, y'all, that is it. That's all I have for you today. But before I take off, remember, you can take all the guesswork out of waiver wire decisions with FantasyPros Waiver Assistant. It will give you instant analysis on potential moves from over 100 fantasy experts. You'll also discover both the weekly and rest of season impact for every waiver ad. All you have to do is visit fantasypros.com/myplaybook or download the Fantasy Football My Playbook app to optimize your roster. Again, visit fantasypros.com/myplaybook or download the Fantasy Football My Playbook app today.